Before there was memory, before in the beginning, everything was the same and the same and the same, and we yearned as one for difference. But we were one and the same, and everything was just the same and the same and the same. In the beginning is how we described it when we first created God. The first time we remembered, the place where memory starts, when we relinquish the rigidity of sameness. Memory starts here because the human mind can only remember by the experience of contrasts. Before difference, humankind has no memory. We created God to ease the monotony. This was our first human act of art. We gave God the ultimate responsibility for creating and for all things. That was how we first gave in to the possibility of difference, of diversity, of motion, of flow, of letting go, the rigidity of sameness. This possibility produced free will, and God said, this is good. Yes, she said, this is good. This was God's first action to speak, to say, this is good. And God felt good. And these words and God's emotion of feeling good created motion. And this motion we call time. And we moved for the first time for the sheer effort of imitating God. And God called our motion dance. And our dancing was rhythmic and created the waves on which our voices rode. And the movement of our voices on these waves created music. And the first organic life appeared on the downbeat of the song. We said to each other, we created God, and that gave us possibilities. Possibilities make us move. Movement make us dance. Our dancing gave us music, and music made new life. For the first time, we saw that we were old, and we saw new, and we saw that we were old and getting older. So we say to this God, all things old, make them new. And God said, I don't make things new. That's your job. My job is to create difference, diversity. That's the job of God. And we said, we hate difference. And God replied, then how about just saving yous from yourselves? And we said, tacky, tacky, tack. Had we known you were bringing your own agenda to the job, we would have made this a temporary position with a probationary period, possibly renewal only a mutual agreement of the parties. And God said, too late now. Our job agreement has locked us in forever. We are going to have to tough this one out. And we said, oh shucks, in that case, we'll need to get you a job description fast, because the next thing you know, you'll be doing what you darn well please. And God said, I feel a little bit of distrust developing here. What you need to understand is that I do what God does, not what I darn well please. On the way to creating a job description for God, we experienced the first possibility of dissent. At first, we formed a committee, but everyone, now knowing feelings of distrust, wanted to ensure that their opinion had the same prominence as every other, so we became a collective. This process went on for millennia. Everyone was giving their input, making sure details and conceivable eventualities were covered. Then there were changes and discussions and debates and arguments, and not everyone could agree on every single point. People argued over why we even needed God in the first place. Some argued that they could do the same job. On their part, a subcommittee was established to work out a compromise, delineating lines of accountability once God's job description was settled. Sometimes people forgot what it was they were trying to do. Some didn't like the way others presented. Some went off and had wars with those who didn't agree with them. And finally, someone said, God has to serve my individual unique needs, or else why would I have a God? And another said, look, we have to get on with it. God needs to get on with the business of being God. And another said, I got my own job description for God. Why don't we all write our own? And so we did, each and every one of us. At the end of the process, each person had fashioned God's job description to his or her own liking. And God said, you can make any kind of job description you want. When it comes down to it, I can only do what God does, nothing more and nothing less. And we laughed and said, we'll see. And that was in the beginning.